The conference room smelled like leather and expensive cologne, the kind that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I kept my eyes down, fingers cramping around my notepad as Mr. Castellano's voice droned on about quarterly projections. The air conditioning hummed overhead, too cold against my thin blouse, raising goosebumps along my arms. I'd been working as a junior assistant at Castellano Industries for 8 months, and in all that time, I'd mastered the art of invisibility. Being invisible was safe. Safe meant I could pay my bills, send money to my sick mother back in Ohio, and maybe, just maybe, save enough to finish my accounting degree. Safe meant men like Dante Castellano would never look twice at a girl like me. I risked a glance up from my notes. He sat at the head of the table, perfectly still in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. Even seated, his presence filled the room like smoke. Thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. Dark hair swept back from a face carved from marble and shadows. His eyes, when they passed over the room, were the color of a winter storm. Those eyes had never once landed on me. Not in 8 months. What's your name again? My supervisor, Helen, gestured at me impatiently. Heat flooded my cheeks. Emma Walsh. Emma, the files from the Mitchell account. I fumbled with my folder, papers slipping through my sweaty fingers. One sheet floated to the floor. As I bent to retrieve it, I caught the faintest scent of gun oil and bergamot, a contradiction that made my stomach flutter with something that felt dangerously like awareness. When I straightened, Dante Castellano was looking at his phone, jaw tight. 2 men in dark suits flanked the door behind him, hands clasped, eyes constantly scanning. I'd learned not to stare at them. Everyone knew what Dante Castellano really was, even if no one ever said it out loud. The legitimate businesses were just a front, a beautiful mask over something far more dangerous. The meeting ended. I gathered my things quickly, eager to disappear back to my cubicle on the 3rd floor, the assistant pool where girls like me answered phones and filed documents and dreamed of being noticed for our work, not our looks. My cubicle was a gray box with a single photo of my mother taped to the partition. I just settled into my chair when I saw them. Roses. 24 blood-red roses in a crystal vase, sitting in the center of my desk. My heart stopped. The card was cream-colored, expensive. My hands shook as I opened it. To the girl who doesn't know how beautiful she is. M. I didn't know any M. I looked around wildly, but the other assistants were absorbed in their work, the clacking of keyboards filling the air like rainfall. The roses were so out of place in my drab little world. Too vibrant, too alive, too expensive. Someone's got an admirer. Jessica from the next cubicle peeked over the partition, her voice syrupy with false sweetness. Who's M? I don't know, I whispered, touching one velvet petal. It felt like sin beneath my fingertip. For 3 days, I tried to solve the mystery. 3 days of glancing at every man named Mike or Matt or Marcus in the building. 3 days of feeling beautiful and terrified and special in a way I'd never experienced. On the 4th day, more roses arrived. White this time, tinged with pink at the edges like a blush. Your smile yesterday made my day. I'm watching you, Emma. M. My smile? When had I smiled? The words should have frightened me. I'm watching you. But instead, they made my skin tingle with something electric and forbidden. Someone saw me. Someone noticed. By the end of the week, my cubicle looked like a garden, roses in every color, orchids, peonies that smelled like heaven. The other assistants' whispers followed me everywhere. Even Helen raised an eyebrow when she passed my desk. I should have been flattered, grateful even. But jealousy is a weed that grows fastest in neglected soil. I thought of my mother's medical bills, thought of my worn shoes, and how I'd eaten ramen for dinner 4 nights this week to save money. Thought of how invisible I'd been my entire life. The plain girl, the forgettable girl, the girl who worked hard and kept her head down and never expected anything beautiful. These flowers weren't meant for me. They couldn't be. This was a mistake, a cruel joke or worse, pity from someone who'd noticed how pathetic my life was. The rage built slowly, like water coming to a boil. Every bouquet felt like mockery. Every card felt like a lie. By Friday afternoon, I couldn't breathe in my cubicle anymore. The fragrance was too thick, too sweet, cloying in my throat like perfume at a funeral. I waited until everyone left for lunch. Then I grabbed the largest vase, the blood-red roses from that first day, and marched toward the elevator. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I needed them gone. All of them. I needed to erase this beautiful mistake before it destroyed me. The executive floor was silent, carpeted in burgundy so thick my footsteps made no sound. I'd only been up here twice, both times trailing behind Helen like a shadow. The walls were decorated with expensive art I didn't understand, abstract slashes of color that probably cost more than my mother's hospital bills. I found a trash chute at the end of the hallway. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the vase just as I lifted it to dump the flowers. "Those are beautiful." The voice came from behind me, smooth as aged whiskey and just as dangerous. I spun around, and the vase slipped from my fingers. It shattered against the marble floor in an explosion of crystal, water, and roses. The sound echoed through the empty hallway like a gunshot. Dante Castellano stood 3 feet away, flanked by his ever-present shadows. But for the first time in 8 months, his storm cloud eyes were looking directly at me. Really looking. His gaze moved from the shattered vase to my face, and I watched something flicker in those depths. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. His bodyguards tensed, hands moving toward their jackets, but he held up one hand in a gesture so slight I almost missed it. They froze. "I'm sorry," I gasped, dropping to my knees. Crystal shards glittered in the puddle like diamonds. "I'm so sorry, I'll clean it up, I'll—" "Stop," one word, barely above a whisper, but it pinned me in place. He moved closer. I could see his shoes now. Italian leather, probably custom-made, spotless. They stopped inches from the water, spreading across the marble. The scent of bergamot washed over me, mixed with something darker. Cedar. Smoke. Danger. "Stand up." I obeyed on trembling legs, keeping my eyes on the floor. My heart was trying to escape my chest. I could lose my job for this. Worse. I was on the executive floor without permission, destroying property, making a mess in Dante Castellano's pristine world. Look at me. I couldn't. I physically couldn't make my eyes rise to meet his. His hand appeared in my field of vision. Strong fingers. A heavy silver ring on his right hand, etched with symbols I didn't recognize. He didn't touch me, just held his hand there in the space between us until curiosity won over fear. When I finally looked up, the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. "Why were you throwing away the roses?" His voice was quiet, controlled. But underneath I heard something that sounded almost like hurt. "They're not mine," I whispered. "They're a mistake." His jaw tightened. "Not a mistake." The world tilted. "What?" "The flowers. They're not a mistake, Emma." He knew my name. Dante Castellano knew my name. "I don't understand." My voice cracked. "M," he said softly, and the pieces fell into place with devastating clarity. "Marcus. My middle name." No. This wasn't possible. Men like Dante Castellano didn't notice girls like me. They didn't send flowers. They didn't watch us from their towers and find our smiles worthy of poetry. Why? The word escaped before I could stop it. Something dangerous flashed across his face. Possession. Hunger. Something that made every survival instinct I had scream at me to run. But his voice remained soft, almost gentle. Because 8 months ago, you walked into a conference room with coffee stains on your sleeve and terror in your eyes, and you were the realest thing I'd seen in 10 years. My legs felt weak. "Mr. Castellano, Dante. I can't. This isn't—" I gestured helplessly at the destroyed flowers, at the impossible chasm between us. "I'm nobody." His hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. Fingers gripped my chin, tilting my face up, forcing me to hold his gaze. Not painful, but absolutely inescapable. His touch burned. "Say that again," he murmured, voice dropping to something that vibrated in my bones. "Call yourself nobody again, Emma. I dare you." I couldn't speak. His fingers were warm against my skin. the touch so gentle it contradicted everything I knew about Dante Castellano. Behind him, his bodyguards stood like statues, faces carefully blank, but I could feel their attention on us. Sharp, assessing, probably already calculating how to dispose of my body if this went wrong. "I'm sorry," I finally managed, my voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to. The flowers were so beautiful, and I thought—" "You thought what?" His thumb brushed along my jaw, a whisper of contact that sent electricity racing down my spine. "That someone was playing a joke? That you weren't worth them?" The accuracy of his words made tears prick at my eyes. I blinked them back furiously. I would not cry in front of Dante Castellano. I would not give him that piece of me. "Let me go," I whispered. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then his hand dropped, but he didn't step back. We stood in the puddle of water and shattered crystal. So close I could see the exact moment his expression shifted from something almost soft to the cold, controlled mask I recognized from board meetings. "Marco," he said without turning his head. One of the bodyguards stepped forward. "Call housekeeping and bring Miss Walsh's belongings from the 3rd floor to my office." My heart lurched. "What?" "No, we need to talk." It wasn't a request. "My office. Now." He turned and walked away, his footsteps silent on the carpet. The bodyguard named Marco gestured for me to follow, his hand hovering near the small of my back, but never quite touching. The other one stayed behind, presumably to deal with my disaster. Dante's office was at the end of the hall, through double doors of dark wood that probably cost more than my college tuition. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The afternoon sun painting everything in shades of amber and gold. The desk was massive, mahogany, empty except for a laptop and a single photograph I couldn't quite see from this distance. He moved behind the desk, but didn't sit. Instead, he pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then set it down and finally, looked at me again. "Sit." There were 2 leather chairs facing the desk. I perched on the edge of one, my back rigid, hands clasped in my lap to hide their trembling. Marco positioned himself by the door, eyes forward, but I knew he was watching. They were always watching. "How old are you, Emma?" Dante asked. 24. "And you've worked here for 8 months?" "Yes." "Why?" The question threw me. I needed a job. I'm saving for school, and my mother... I stopped, unwilling to spill my life story to a man who probably fired people before breakfast. "Your mother is sick." It wasn't a question. Stage 3 breast cancer. You send her 60% of your paycheck every month. You eat 1 meal a day most weeks to afford it. Ice flooded my veins. "How do you—" "I know everything about you, Emma." He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather. "I know you graduated top of your class in high school but couldn't afford college. I know you work 2 jobs, here and weekend shifts at St. Mary's Hospital in the ER waiting room. I know you haven't bought yourself new clothes in 14 months. I know you're kind to people who don't deserve it, and you smile at the janitor every morning like he's royalty." Each fact felt like a violation, like he'd peeled back my skin and examined my bones. "You had me investigated the moment you walked into that first meeting." His eyes never left my face. "I needed to know who you were. Why?" The word came out strangled. "Why would you care about some random assistant?" He moved then, coming around the desk with predatory grace. He stopped directly in front of me, so close I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. The intensity in his gaze made it hard to breathe. "Because you looked at me like I was a man," he said quietly. "Not a monster. Not a bank account. Not a ticket to something better. You looked at me for 3 seconds in that meeting, and then you looked away like I wasn't worth your time. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" I was nervous. You were real. He crouched down, bringing himself to my eye level, and suddenly there was nowhere to hide. "Everyone in my life wants something, Emma. Money, power, protection. They smile and lie and pretend, and I play along because that's the game. But you didn't even see me. I saw you," I whispered. "Everyone sees you." "No. They see what I let them see. His hand reached out and I flinched. He paused, something that looked like pain crossing his features, then continued until his fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face. You saw me in the parking garage 2 months ago. Remember? I did. I'd been leaving late, arms full of files I'd volunteered to take home over the weekend. He'd been standing by a black SUV, phone to his ear, and for just a moment, his mask had slipped. He'd looked tired, human, vulnerable. Our eyes had met, and I'd smiled, a small, sympathetic smile, before hurrying to my beat-up Honda. You smiled at me like you understood, he continued, his voice dropping even lower, like you knew what it was to be exhausted by your own life. And then you got in your car with the broken taillight and drove away, and I couldn't stop thinking about you. This was insane. This whole conversation was insane. Men like Dante Castellano didn't obsess over girls like me. They didn't notice us, didn't investigate us, didn't send us flowers for months until... The flowers, I breathed. You've been sending them for a week. I've been wanting to send them for 8 months. He stood, putting distance between us again, and I could breathe. But I had to be sure. Sure of what? That you weren't playing me. That you weren't planted by my enemies. That you were exactly who you appeared to be. A good girl, working hard, trying to save her mother, completely unaware that she'd become an obsession. The word hung in the air like a threat. Obsession. Mr. Castellano. Dante, he corrected, something sharp entering his tone. You'll call me Dante, Emma. We're past formalities now. We're not past anything, I said, finding a shred of courage. You're my boss. This is completely inappropriate. I could lose my job, I own this company. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. I own half the city. There's no one to report me to, Emma. No HR to file a complaint with. And you won't lose your job. In fact, you're getting a promotion. My stomach dropped. What? You'll be my personal assistant. Starting Monday, salary increased to $80,000 a year, full benefits, and your mother will be transferred to the best oncology center in the state. All expenses covered. The room spun. $80,000? My mother in a real treatment center? It was everything I'd been praying for, delivered on a silver platter by the most dangerous man I'd ever met. Why? I asked again, because I needed to understand. What do you want from me? His smile was slow, predatory, beautiful in a way that made my heart race with fear, and something worse than fear. Everything. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed, shoulders tensing, jaw tightening, eyes going cold and hard. Marco, he said without looking up. Take Emma to the car. We're leaving. What? No, I can't. You can and you will. He typed something quickly, then pocketed his phone. Something's come up. You're coming with me. I have work. You work for me now. He grabbed a jacket from behind his desk, shrugging into it with economical movements. And right now, I need you where I can see you. Terror spiked through me. Why? What's happening? He stopped in front of me, and for the first time, I saw genuine concern in his eyes. Because the people I told about my interest in you might use that information in ways I can't control. Because I just made you visible, Emma. And visibility in my world is dangerous, because I need to keep you safe until I handle this. Handle what? A problem. He touched my face again, that same gentle, possessive touch that made me feel claimed. Trust me. Just for today. Let me protect you. I should have said no, should have run screaming from his office and never looked back, but my mother's face flashed through my mind, pale and thin in her hospital bed, struggling to smile when I visited, the medical bills stacked on my kitchen counter, the hopelessness of my situation. And underneath all of that, something darker. The way Dante Castellano looked at me like I was precious, like I mattered, like I was worth protecting. Okay, I whispered. His smile was triumphant and terrible. Good girl. Marco led me to the elevator, his hand finally making contact. A firm grip on my elbow that was simultaneously protective and proprietary. Dante followed, phone to his ear. speaking in rapid Italian that I couldn't understand. Another bodyguard joined us on the way down, appearing from nowhere, forming a wall of muscle around me. The parking garage was dim and cool, smelling of oil and concrete. A black SUV with tinted windows waited by the private elevator, engine already running. Another man stood by the driver's door, eyes scanning the shadows. "Get in," Dante murmured, opening the back door. I hesitated, and his hand found the small of my back, gentle but insistent. The touch burned through my thin blouse. I climbed in, and he slid in beside me, close enough that his thigh pressed against mine. Marco took the passenger seat, and we pulled out into traffic. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere safe." Dante's hand found mine in the darkness of the back seat, fingers threading through mine. The contact should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt inevitable. "Don't be afraid, Emma. I won't let anything hurt you." But as the city blurred past the windows, and I sat trapped between Dante Castellano and the unknown, I realized the thing I should fear most was already holding my hand. The SUV wound through the city streets, taking turns I didn't recognize. I watched the familiar skyline give way to upscale neighborhoods where trees lined the sidewalks and gates protected sprawling estates. My hand was still trapped in Dante's, his thumb tracing absent circles on my palm that made it impossible to think straight. "Tell me about your mother," he said quietly. The request surprised me. "What?" "Your mother. What's her name?" "Catherine." I swallowed hard, thrown by the gentleness in his voice. "Everyone calls her Kathy. What's she like?" I didn't understand this game, but something in his expression made me answer. "Strong. She raised me alone after my dad left when I was 6. Worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. She's the best person I know." His fingers tightened around mine. "She's proud of you. I haven't given her much to be proud of." "You're wrong." He shifted, and suddenly his free hand was tilting my face toward him. "You're everything she hoped you'd be. Good. Kind. Willing to sacrifice everything for the people you love. That's rare, Emma. Precious." The way he said precious made heat pool in my stomach. I pulled my hand from his, needing distance, needing to think. "Where are we going?" "My home." Panic flared. "I can't. That's not. You can. And you are." His tone left no room for argument. "There's been a situation. Until I know you're safe, you stay with me." "What kind of situation?" His jaw tightened. "The kind where men who want to hurt me look for weaknesses. The kind where a girl I've shown interest in becomes a target." The words hit like ice water. "Target? I'm nobody. Why would anyone—" "You're not nobody." The words came out almost harsh. "Stop saying that. You're mine, which makes you extremely valuable to my enemies." "I'm not yours." But even as I said it, the protest felt hollow. His smile was dark. "You've been mine since you smiled at me in that parking garage. You just didn't know it yet." The SUV pulled through iron gates into a circular driveway. The house, mansion, really, rose before us like something from a movie. Stone and glass and perfectly manicured grounds that probably required a full-time staff. Lights glowed in the windows, warm against the deepening dusk. Marco opened my door. I stepped out on shaky legs, staring up at my new prison. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? A beautiful cage. "This way." Dante's hand found the small of my back again, guiding me toward massive double doors. They opened before we reached them, revealing a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a crisp black dress. "Mr. Castellano," she said with a slight Italian accent. "Your guest room is prepared. Thank you, Rosa." He steered me inside, into a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that threw rainbows across the walls. "This is Emma Walsh. She'll be staying with us. Make sure she has everything she needs." Rosa's eyes flickered over me, assessing, calculating, but her expression remained neutral. "Of course. Miss Walsh, if you'll follow me." "Actually," Dante interrupted, his hand tightening possessively on my back. "Show her to the East Wing, the blue room." Something passed between them, a look I couldn't interpret. Rosa nodded. "As you wish." I should have asked questions, should have demanded answers, but exhaustion was crashing over me like waves, the events of the day finally catching up. I let Rosa lead me through hallways lined with art, up a curved staircase, into a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. The blue room was aptly named, decorated in shades of sapphire and cream, with a 4-poster bed that looked like it belonged in a palace. French doors opened onto a balcony. A fireplace dominated one wall. "The bathroom is through there," Rosa said, pointing to another door. "I'll bring you some clothes. You're about my daughter's size." "Thank you," I whispered. She paused at the door, something almost like pity crossing her features. "Mr. Castellano is not a bad man, Miss Walsh, but he is a dangerous one. Be careful." Then she was gone, and I was alone in a room worth more than everything I'd ever owned combined. I sank onto the bed, springs barely giving under my weight. What had I done? What had I agreed to? I should call the police, should run. Should do anything except sit here in Dante Castellano's house like some kind of... The door opened without warning. Dante filled the doorway, jacket gone, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars I'd never noticed before. He'd loosened his tie, and somehow that small change made him seem more dangerous, not less. "You should eat," he said. "I'm not hungry." "Emma." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "You haven't eaten since breakfast." Don't lie to me. How did he know that? Had he been watching me that closely? As if reading my thoughts, he smiled. "I notice everything about you, what you eat, how you take your coffee, the way you bite your lip when you're nervous." His eyes dropped to my mouth, like you're doing right now. I released my lip, face burning. "This is crazy. You know that, right? This whole thing is insane, maybe." He crossed to the window, staring out at the darkening grounds. "But I've never felt sane where you're concerned. You don't even know me. I know you better than you think." He turned back, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. "I know you're terrified right now, but you haven't run. I know you're attracted to me even though you don't want to be. I know you're calculating the cost of my offer, your mother's treatment against your principles, and you hate yourself for even considering it." Every word landed like a blade. "Stop it." "Why? Because I'm right?" He moved closer, each step deliberate. "You want to be good, Emma. Noble. Self-sacrificing. But there's a part of you that wants this. Wants to be taken care of. Wants someone to fight for you. Wants to let go of all that responsibility and just feel, you don't know what I want, don't I?" He was directly in front of me now, close enough to touch. "Then tell me to leave. Tell me you want nothing to do with me, that you'll quit on Monday, that you'd rather watch your mother die than accept my help. Tell me, Emma, and I'll walk out that door right now." I opened my mouth. The words should have been easy. I should have sent him away, should have protected myself from whatever dark thing was happening between us. But nothing came out. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. That's what I thought. "I hate you," I whispered. "No, you don't." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. "But you hate that you want me. I can work with that." The kiss, when it came, wasn't gentle. It was possession and promise and threat all wrapped together. His mouth claimed mine with an intensity that stole my breath, one hand tangling in my hair while the other gripped my hip hard enough to bruise. I should have pushed him away. Instead, my hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, betraying every principle I'd ever held. He made a sound low in his throat, triumph and hunger, and deepened the kiss until I was drowning in him. Bergamot and smoke and something uniquely Dante filled my senses. His tongue swept against mine, demanding surrender. And God help me, I gave it. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes had gone dark, pupils blown wide with want. His thumb traced my swollen lower lip. "You're mine now," he murmured. "Say it." "I'm not." His mouth crashed down on mine again, swallowing my protest. This kiss was harder, more demanding, his teeth catching my lip in a bite that sent electricity racing down my spine. When he released me, I was shaking. Say it. The command in his voice should have angered me. Instead, it ignited something primal and terrifying deep in my core. I'm yours, I heard myself whisper. His smile was pure satisfaction. Good girl. He kissed me once more, softer this time, almost sweet, then stepped back. Rosa will bring dinner, eat, rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss the details of your new position. Dante. Sleep, Emma. He moved toward the door, then paused. And don't try to leave. Marco and Luca are outside your door. They won't hurt you, but they won't let you go either. Not until I know you're safe. I'm a prisoner? You're protected. His eyes softened slightly. There's a difference. Learn it. Then he was gone, and I was alone with the taste of him on my lips, and the terrifying knowledge that somewhere between the flowers and the kiss, I'd stopped wanting to escape. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The flowers, the confrontation, the kiss that had branded itself into my memory. A soft knock preceded Rosa's entrance. She carried a tray with coffee, fresh fruit, and pastries that looked like they'd come from a professional bakery. Good morning, Miss Walsh. Mr. Castellano asked me to inform you that he had business to attend to this morning, but he'll return by noon. He's left clothes for you in the closet. I sat up, pulling the silk sheets around me. At some point last night, I'd changed into a nightgown Rosa had provided, soft cotton that was probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. What kind of business? Rosa's expression closed off. The kind that requires his attention. Eat, please. He won't be pleased if you skip meals. She left before I could ask more questions. I picked at the food, my stomach too knotted to appreciate the luxury. When I finally worked up the courage to check the closet, I found it full of clothes, designer labels, all in my size. Dresses, jeans, blouses, even shoes. He'd planned this. Prepared for me. How long had he been waiting for an excuse to bring me here? I chose the simplest outfit I could find. Dark jeans and a cream sweater, and ventured out of the room. Marco stood outside, exactly where Dante had promised. His face was impassive. Miss Walsh, is there something you need? I'd like to see the house. I lifted my chin, refusing to be intimidated. He considered this, then nodded. I'll escort you. The mansion was even more impressive in daylight. Rosa had clearly been busy. There were fresh flowers in every room. The kind that didn't come from grocery stores. The kitchen was massive, all marble and stainless steel. The library held more books than I'd seen outside a university, and everywhere, subtle signs of security. Cameras hidden in corners, reinforced windows, doors that looked decorative but were probably bulletproof. This wasn't just a home. It was a fortress. How long have you worked for him? I asked Marco, as we walked through a conservatory full of exotic plants. 8 years. And you're loyal to him? It wasn't a question, but Marco answered anyway. Mr. Castellano saved my life. I'd die for him without hesitation. The certainty in his voice chilled me. What kind of man inspires that kind of loyalty? Marco's expression softened slightly. The kind who protects his own, the kind who never forgets a debt or forgives a betrayal, the kind who would burn the world down for someone he cares about. He paused. He cares about you, Miss Walsh. That makes you family, and we protect family. Before I could process that, my phone buzzed. I'd forgotten I even had it. Rosa must have brought it with my purse. The screen showed an unknown number. Don't answer that, Marco said sharply, but I'd already swiped to accept. Hello? Emma Walsh? A man's voice, smooth and cultured. You don't know me, but I know all about you. I know you're staying at Dante Castellano's estate. I know he's developing quite the obsession with you. And I know exactly how to use that information. My blood turned to ice. Who is this? A friend? Or an enemy? That depends entirely on you. He laughed softly. Tell your new boyfriend that Victor Russo sends his regards. And Emma, enjoy the mansion. It's about to become your tomb. The line went dead. The phone slipped from my nerveless fingers. Marco caught it before it hit the marble floor, his face going dark as he checked the screen. What did they say? He demanded. Victor Russo. My voice came out strangled. He said this place would become my tomb. Marco was already moving, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. Within seconds, the house erupted into controlled chaos. Men in dark suits appeared from nowhere, securing windows, checking doors. Rosa materialized at my side, her hand firm on my elbow. Come with me, Miss Walsh. Now. She led me to a room I hadn't seen before. Dante's study, judging by the massive desk and the scent of bergamot that lingered in the air. She pushed me into a leather chair and locked the door behind us. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone but Mr. Castellano or me. Understood? I nodded, too shocked to speak. She disappeared, and I was alone with the pounding of my heart and the echo of that smooth, cultured voice promising death. The study was all dark wood and leather, bookshelves lining the walls, but it was the desk that drew my attention. Specifically, the photograph I'd glimpsed in his office. I moved closer, needing the distraction from my terror. It was a family portrait. A younger Dante, maybe 20, stood beside an older man who shared his features, his father clearly. And next to them, a beautiful woman with kind eyes and a teenage boy with Dante's smile. They looked happy, normal. That was taken 3 months before they died. I spun around. Dante stood in the doorway, his suit jacket gone, a smear of something dark on his white shirt that made my stomach turn. Blood. That was blood. Are you hurt? I rushed toward him without thinking. He caught my hands, stopping me. Not mine. His eyes scanned me head to toe, searching for injuries. Marco told me about the call. Are you all right? Am I all right? You have blood on your shirt and you're asking if I'm all right? Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe, or pleasure. I'm fine. The blood belongs to the man who gave Russo your number. His thumb stroked over my racing pulse. He won't be making that mistake again. The implication made me feel sick. You killed him? No, but he wishes I had. He released my hands and moved to a cabinet, pulling out a crystal decanter and 2 glasses. Drink this. I don't want... Emma, the warning in his voice was clear. You're shaking. Drink. He was right. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the glass he pressed into them. The amber liquid burned going down, but it steadied me slightly. Dante poured himself a measure, downed it in 1 swallow, then set the glass down with controlled precision. When he looked at me again, his mask had slipped. I could see the rage simmering beneath his calm exterior. Victor Russo is my oldest enemy, he said quietly. Our families have been at war for 3 generations. He kills what I love. It's his signature move, what you love. The words barely made it past my lips. His smile was bitter. My mother, my brother. Everyone I've ever cared about, he's taken from me. That's why I've been alone for so long, Emma. That's why I've kept my distance from everyone who might matter. Then why? I gestured helplessly between us. Why risk it? Why make me a target? Because I'm tired of being alone. He moved closer, and I could see the exhaustion in his eyes now, the weight of years of violence and loss. Because 8 months of watching you from afar wasn't enough anymore. Because the moment you smiled at me in that parking garage, I knew that you were worth any risk. That's insane. Yes. He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes, but it's the truth. You make me want things I gave up on years ago. A normal life, a family, someone to come home to who sees me. Not the monster, not the boss, but me. Tears pricked my eyes. I can't be that person. I'm not strong enough for your world. You're stronger than you know. His forehead pressed against mine, and for a moment, we just breathed together. But I won't force this. If you want to leave, I'll arrange protection for you and your mother. You'll be safe. But you'll be alone. It was the choice I'd been waiting for. My escape, offered freely. I should have taken it. Should have run from this beautiful, dangerous man in his world of blood and violence. But the thought of leaving made my chest ache. What's the alternative? I whispered. You stay. You become mine in every way that matters. I protect you with everything I have, and you let me." His hands slid into my hair. "I won't lie to you, Emma. It won't be easy. There will be danger. There will be nights when I come home covered in blood that isn't mine. There will be choices that keep you awake at night. But you'll never be alone again. You'll never have to struggle or sacrifice or go hungry. Your mother will have the best care money can buy, and I will worship you every single day for the rest of our lives." The promise in his words was terrifying in its intensity. "You barely know me. I know enough." His mouth brushed against mine, soft and sweet. "I know you're brave enough to throw away flowers you thought were too good for you. I know you're loyal enough to sacrifice everything for your mother. I know you're strong enough to stand in my office and call me out when anyone else would have cowered. That's all I need to know. What if I'm not who you think I am? Then I'll love whoever you turn out to be." He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I tasted desperation beneath a desire. "Stay, Emma, please." The please broke me. This powerful, dangerous man, this king of his dark empire, was begging me to stay. "Okay," I breathed against his lips. "I'll stay." His arms came around me, crushing me against his chest, and I felt him shudder. "Thank you," he murmured into my hair. "Thank you." We stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, while outside his men fortified the house against threats I couldn't even imagine. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were clearer, more focused. "I need to make arrangements. Russo's call was a declaration of war, and I need to respond." His hand cupped my face. "Rosa will stay with you. Don't leave this room until I come back." "Where are you going?" "To send a message." His smile was cold. "Victor needs to understand that you're under my protection, that hurting you means going through me." "Dante, I'll be back by dinner." He kissed me once more, hard and possessive. "And then we'll talk about moving your mother to the treatment center tomorrow. I want her safe before Russo makes his next move." He was gone before I could protest, leaving me alone in his study with the photograph of his dead family and the taste of his promise on my lips. The next 3 days blurred together in a haze of controlled chaos. True to his word, Dante arranged for my mother's transfer to the Riverside Oncology Center, the best facility in the state. I wasn't allowed to visit her in person. "Too dangerous," Dante said, his jaw tight. But we video-called every evening. She looked better already, color returning to her cheeks, hope rekindling in her eyes. "I don't understand how you arranged this, sweetheart," she said during one call, her voice thick with tears. "The treatment here costs—" "Don't worry about the cost, Mom." I forced a smile, acutely aware of Dante standing just out of frame, watching. "I got a promotion. A really good one. Just focus on getting better." After we hung up, Dante pulled me into his arms. We'd fallen into this pattern, stolen moments between meetings and phone calls, his touch becoming as necessary as breathing. He hadn't pushed for more than kisses, seemed content to hold me while he worked, to have me near. But I could feel the tension building. The way his eyes tracked my movements. The possessiveness in every touch, the barely leashed hunger when he looked at me. On the 4th day, everything changed. I was reading in the library when Marco appeared, his expression grim. "Miss Walsh, Mr. Castellano requests your presence in the ballroom immediately." The ballroom? We hadn't used that part of the house. Why? He'll explain. Dread pooled in my stomach as I followed Marco through the mansion. The ballroom was at the east end, doors usually kept closed. Now they stood open, revealing a cavernous space with crystal chandeliers and a floor that gleamed like glass. Dante stood in the center, surrounded by at least 20 men in dark suits. And kneeling on the floor in front of him, hands bound behind his back and face bloody, was a man I'd never seen before, Emma. Dante's voice was calm, but I heard the steel beneath it. "Come here." My legs felt like water, but I forced myself forward. The bound man's eyes tracked my movement, and I saw calculation there, even through the pain. "This is Michael Torres," Dante said, his hand finding the small of my back the moment I reached him. "He worked for Victor Russo. He was sent to infiltrate my household staff to get close to you." Ice flooded my veins. "What?" "He applied for a groundskeeper position yesterday. Rose's instincts flagged him, and my men did some digging. Dante's fingers tightened on my back. Tell her, Michael. Tell her what Russo's plan was. The man spat blood onto the pristine floor. Go to hell, Castellano. Dante's free hand moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was standing still. The next, his gun was pressed against Michael's temple. The click of the safety releasing was deafening in the sudden silence. I'll ask once more, Dante said softly. Tell her. He wanted me to get close to the girl, Michael gasped out. Gain her trust. Take her when you weren't looking. Deliver her to his estate so he could... He stopped, eyes darting to me. So he could what? Dante's voice dropped to something sub-zero. So he could make you watch while he killed her. Slowly. The world tilted. Dante's arm came around my waist, the only thing holding me upright. You see now? He murmured in my ear. You see why I can't let you out of my sight? Why I need you here? Protected. Mine. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The reality of his world, of what I'd agreed to, was crushing me. Take him to the East Warehouse, Dante ordered, his gun disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Make sure Russo hears his screams before he dies. Marco and 2 other men hauled Michael to his feet, dragging him away. His pleas for mercy echoed through the ballroom until the doors closed, cutting them off. Then it was just us, standing in that beautiful, terrible room, while my entire world rearranged itself around the truth. I hadn't just agreed to stay with Dante Castellano. I'd agreed to be the weakness that his enemies would exploit, the target that would always be painted on my back. I'm sorry you had to see that, Dante said quietly, turning me to face him. But I needed you to understand. This is my life, Emma. Violence and blood and constant vigilance. If you stay, this is what you're accepting. I looked up at him. This man who'd sent flowers for months, who'd investigated every detail of my life, who'd promised to worship me while standing over a man he was about to torture to death. Are you giving me another chance to leave? No. His smile was sad. I'm too selfish for that. You're mine now, and I'm not letting you go, but I need you to understand what that means. I understand. And terrifyingly, I did. I understood that I'd fallen in love with a monster who looked at me like I was salvation. I understood that my old life was gone, burned away the moment I'd thrown those roses in the trash. I understood that there was no going back. Say it again, he commanded, hands framing my face. Tell me you're mine. I'm yours, I whispered. And this time, I meant it with every fiber of my being. His kiss was fierce, claiming, branding. And as he lifted me into his arms and carried me from that ballroom of beautiful horrors toward his bedroom, I surrendered completely to the dark prince who'd made me his queen. Dante's bedroom was a revelation. Dark walls, massive bed with black silk sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the grounds. He set me down gently, his eyes never leaving mine as he shrugged out of his jacket and began unbuttoning his shirt. Are you sure? He asked, pausing. Once we do this, Emma, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way. My heart hammered against my ribs. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt oddly calm, like I'd been moving toward this moment since the first flower appeared on my desk. I'm sure. His shirt hit the floor, revealing a torso mapped with scars, some old and faded, some newer. Each one told a story of violence, of survival, of the life he'd lived before me. I reached out, tracing a particularly vicious scar across his ribs. Knife fight, he murmured. 3 years ago. The man who gave it to me didn't walk away. I should have been horrified. Instead, I felt a fierce possessiveness. This man, these scars, this dangerous life, mine. He undressed me slowly, reverently, each piece of clothing removed with hands that trembled slightly despite his outward control. When I stood before him in nothing but moonlight, his eyes darkened with something primal. Beautiful, he breathed. So damn beautiful, and all mine. He lifted me onto the bed, covering my body with his, and for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be consumed. His mouth was everywhere, my lips, my throat, the curve of my shoulder. His hands mapped every inch of me like he was memorizing territory he'd claimed. When he finally made me his, it was with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. He moved slowly, watching my face, murmuring words in Italian that sounded like prayers. And when we moved together, it felt like the world had narrowed to just us, two broken people finding wholeness in each other's arms. Afterward, he held me against his chest, one hand stroking my hair while the other kept me pressed close. I could hear his heartbeat, strong and steady beneath my ear. "I love you," he said into the darkness. "I know it's too soon. I know you probably think I'm insane. But I love you, Emma Walsh. I think I have since that first meeting when you looked at me like I was just a man." Tears slid down my cheeks. "I love you too," I whispered. "God help me, but I do." His arms tightened around me. "Then we'll face whatever comes together. Rousseau, the war, all of it. Together." "Together," I agreed, and fell asleep wrapped in the arms of my dark prince. The next 2 weeks were a strange blend of domesticity and danger. My mother's treatments were progressing beautifully. The doctors were optimistic about remission. I officially became Dante's personal assistant, though my duties seemed to consist mainly of attending meetings at his side, organizing his calendar, and letting him touch me whenever he needed the reassurance that I was real. The other families in his world were curious about me. I met them at a gathering Dante hosted. Dangerous men with careful smiles and calculating eyes, their wives and girlfriends eyeing me with a mixture of pity and envy. I understood why when I saw how Dante was with me versus how he was with them. Cold, distant, every inch the ruthless boss, but with me his mask fell. With me he smiled. Rosa became my unlikely ally, teaching me how to navigate the social landmines of Dante's world. "They'll test you," she warned one afternoon while helping me dress for another event. "The wives especially. They'll want to see if you're weak." "What if I am?" I asked, staring at my reflection. The woman in the mirror looked nothing like the girl who'd thrown away roses 3 weeks ago. This woman wore designer clothes, diamond earrings, and the confidence that came from being loved by a powerful man. "You're not." Rosa's smile was warm. "You stood up to Mr. Castellano in his own office. You stayed when anyone with sense would have run. You're exactly what he needs, someone strong enough to love him without being destroyed by it." The event that night was at a restaurant Dante owned, an exclusive place where reservations were impossible to get unless your last name carried weight. I sat at his side, his hand possessive on my thigh beneath the table, while men discussed territory and shipments in coded language that didn't fool anyone. And then Victor Rousseau walked in. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Dante's hand on my thigh turned to iron, holding me in place when every instinct screamed at me to run. Rousseau was older than I'd imagined. Maybe 60, with silver hair and a face that would have been handsome if not for the cruelty in his eyes. Those eyes found me immediately, and his smile was a predator's. "Dante," he said smoothly, approaching our table with 2 bodyguards flanking him. "I heard you'd finally taken a pet." "I had to see for myself, Victor." Dante's voice was ice. "You're not welcome here. It's a public establishment." Rousseau's gaze raked over me. "She's prettier than I expected. I can see why you're willing to risk war over her." Dante stood slowly, every movement controlled. Around us his men shifted, hands moving toward concealed weapons. Rousseau's men mirrored them. The air crackled with violence, barely restrained. "If you ever speak about her again," Dante said softly, "I will end you. Not quickly, not cleanly. I will make it last for days." Rousseau laughed. So protective, it's almost sweet. He leaned closer, and I smelled expensive cologne and something rotten beneath it. "Tell me, Emma. May I call you Emma? Are you worth the war he's about to start? Worth the bodies that will pile up? Worth the blood that will stain his hands for the rest of his life?" "Yes." The word came out stronger than I felt. "I am, because he's worth the same to me." Something flickered in Rousseau's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. Then his mask returned. "We'll see how long that conviction lasts when the killing starts." He walked away, his men following, and the room released a collective breath. Dante pulled me to my feet, his face carved from stone. "We're leaving. Now." The drive home was silent, tension radiating from Dante in waves. When we reached the mansion, he dismissed everyone, even Marco, and pulled me into his study, locking the door behind us. "I can end this," he said, pacing like a caged animal. "I can send you away, change your identity, set you up somewhere safe where Russo will never find you. You and your mother, new lives, new names, free from all of this." "No." I stood, blocking his path. "I'm not leaving you. You don't understand what's coming, Emma. War, real war. People will die. My people, his people, and he'll come for you. He'll try everything in his power to take you from me, to hurt me in the worst way possible. Then we fight." I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. "Together. You told me we'd face everything together, remember? I can't lose you." His voice broke. "I can't survive losing you. Then don't lose me." I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it. Love, fear, determination. "Fight for me. Fight for us. And I'll stand beside you through all of it." His arms came around me, crushing me against him. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," I agreed. "But you have me anyway." A broken, beautiful sound, and kissed me like I was air and he was drowning. The war, when it came, was brutal. 3 of Dante's warehouses burned. 2 of Russo's lieutenants disappeared. The police, carefully paid to look the other way, suddenly found pressing business elsewhere when bodies started appearing. Through it all, Dante kept me close. I learned to sleep through phone calls in the middle of the night, to not flinch when he came home with blood on his clothes, to trust that Marco and the others would keep me safe when Dante couldn't be there. My mother went into remission. The day we got the news, I cried in Dante's arms for an hour, while he held me and whispered Italian endearments I didn't understand, but felt in my soul. "Marry me," he said, when my tears finally dried. I pulled back to look at him. "What?" "Marry me, Emma." He produced a ring from his pocket, a diamond so large it should have been obscene, but somehow wasn't. "Not because of the war or because I need to claim you. Because I love you. Because I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. Because you make me believe in futures I thought were dead. Yes." I didn't hesitate. "Yes, yes. 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Dante never did anything by half measures. We married 2 weeks later in the mansion's garden, with my mother in attendance. Pale but smiling, tears streaming down her face, Rosa cried. Marco actually smiled, and Dante, my dangerous, beautiful Dante, looked at me like I'd hung the moon. The war ended 3 days after our wedding. I never learned the details. Dante kept that darkness from me when he could. But Russo's body was found in the harbor, and suddenly the violence stopped. Other families stepped back, territory was redistributed. And Dante's position, already strong, became unassailable. "It's over," he told me that night, holding me in our bed. "It's finally over. What happens now?" I asked. "Now?" He kissed my forehead. "Now we live, really live. I'm going to take you to Italy to meet what's left of my family. We're going to bring your mother here to live with us once she's strong enough. We're going to have a normal life, or as normal as my life can be." "I don't need normal," I said, curling into him. "I just need you. You have me." His hand found mine, fingers threading together, wedding rings clicking softly. "For the rest of our lives, Emma Castellano, you have all of me." 6 months later, I stood in Dante's office. Our office now, since he'd insisted on a second desk so I could work beside him. My mother was in the guest house on the property, fully recovered, and learning Italian from Rosa. The flowers on my desk today were white roses, delivered by my husband with a card that simply read, "Still the most beautiful thing in my world. D." I smiled, touching the velvet petals. So much had changed since that day I'd tried to throw away his flowers. I'd gone from invisible to invaluable, from alone to beloved, from a girl struggling to survive to a woman who'd found her home in the most unlikely place. The door opened, and Dante walked in, eyes finding me immediately. His face softened, that expression he saved only for me. "Ready?" he asked, extending his hand. "For what?" "Dinner, your mother, our life." His smile was warm, genuine, nothing like the cold mask he showed the world, ready for everything. I took his hand, letting him pull me close. With you? Always. As we walked out together, his arm around my waist and my head on his shoulder, I thought about fate and flowers, and how sometimes the most dangerous men make the safest havens. How sometimes being noticed, really, truly seen, is worth every risk, and how sometimes love blooms in the darkest places, more beautiful for having survived the shadows. Outside, the sun was setting over the garden where we'd married, painting everything in shades of gold. My mother waved from the guest house porch. Rosa had dinner waiting. Marco nodded respectfully as we passed. This was my life now, beautiful and dangerous and wholly mine, and I wouldn't change a single thing.